It's 24 degrees in Jacksonville. It's 7 in Swansea, -2 in Dundee. This is Teal Talk, the official Jacksonville Jaguars UK and Ireland podcast presented by Gallagher. I'm Jay Lawrence, no relation. He's Kee Ramsorrun, and we are joined in this episode by the voice, the beard of the Jaguars, JP Shadrick, for the end-of-year review and to talk about our hopes for 2025 in Jacksonville. JP, thanks so much for joining us today.
Happy New Year, guys. Good to be with you. Yeah, I don't know what 20 whatever is, but it's like 68 Fahrenheit. That's what we deal with over here. This time of year kind of fluctuated. It can get really chilly, but it's been nice the last few days. We had a big line of storms come through right before the game on Sunday.
Weather, man.
Yeah, it pretty much is. But that's where we are.
I actually saw, when watching the game the other day, I saw that a bunch of, I think they were from Scotland, a bunch of people from Scotland came over to Jacksonville for the game. And I thought, you've left rainy Scotland and you've gone over to Jacksonville, wet Jacksonville, a very wet day, I hear, on Sunday.
Yeah, there was a line of storms that came through about 30 minutes before kickoff. And, there was a tornado watch all day that you knew there was a line coming. What time was it going to really hit? And then it hit right during pregame warmups. And it wasn't as severe as first initially expected, which was good news. But it dumped a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And, that's just how it went. And it kind of affected some of the game. There was the footing and stuff as the game went along was not great. And the field was kind of chopped up at the end of the game. But that's just kind of how it goes. But we're very lucky it didn't delay anything. That was really the concern, is if lightning strikes, then they delay for 30 minutes with a certain radius around the stadium. So that was, from a personal perspective, delays in meaningless games are bad for business. Don't need that. We need this thing to go fast and get on its way. And
I remember when I was there in the summer, JP, Wolves, the football team, where the soccer team were playing over there, and they had that exact thing. They had all the storm warnings, and it felt exactly like that. Storms during a meaningless game are so annoying. Yeah.
Right, and this time of year, because you talked about the weather, right? It can fluctuate. So if they have a front come through, cold comes in, meets the hot air, that's when all the tornadoes and things and the lines of storms can really hit. And that happens sometimes in December in the South, in the Southeast especially, with all these different weather systems meeting each other. So we get a lot of that in December.
We are the meteorology podcast for today. Yeah. It's all things weather going on. Let's talk about the game itself. Let's just briefly talk about it. Obviously, a win for the Jaguars, a 2013 victory, sweeping the Tennessee Titans. Hey, look, it's nice to have it's nice to have you say it's not necessarily the most meaningful of games, JP, but look, it's nice to enjoy the victory while you can get them.
Yeah, we haven't had that many this year. And it's just, you don't want to get in the situation that you are accustomed to losing and you just lose. Then you're a losing franchise, and they don't feel like that's what this is. They're close in games. They've been in all these one-score games. They haven't been able to get over the top, and and good for the locker room. They're staying in these games and trying to fight the best they can. They just haven't been able to execute at the very end a lot of times, but they did the other day, and which was great to see. And quarterback played a little better. The wide receiver's a star, and then the defense had one of their best days in a long time. They gave up a few things on the last drive, but when it mattered, they made a stop. They got a takeaway, stop the presses. They got a takeaway. That was big. Okay, that's a good win. Fans outside the building, a lot of them are talking about, it hurt the draft order and those things for next year. But inside, they don't care about that stuff. Coaches and players are not worried about that right now.
What are the vibes like in the locker room and everything, JP, after the game?
Pretty spirited. For what they are. They're 4-12. So as spirited as that can get, right? It's better. Winning's better than losing. So I think in the locker room they were relieved, I think is probably a better feel. So that's where they are right now. They're 4-12. A win's good, and they swept a division rival in Tennessee. That's always great. And they have a chance to do it next week again against Indianapolis as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Colts in a little bit when we preview that game. Well, I don't want to speak too much about Brian Thomas Jr. because we've spoken about him so much, and I'm sure we'll speak about him in a little bit as well because when we're sort of looking back on 2024. But big game for him. As you say, the quarterback played a little bit better as well. And that's a kind of a big
He's
thing
been listening
as
to the
well.
podcast, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what do you always say? What have you always been saying?
I give him the same message every week, JP, where I say to Mac, "Hey, Mac, don't throw any picks, mate."
And he listened.
He listened.
He listened. He played better. You made a good point about the defense there as well. I think all in all, we can just put it past us and just say, nice to have a victory. Nice that some of the team, played as how we wanted to see them play, to be honest. Go on, JP.
And you know what? I mean, part of this too is having guys that haven't had a lot of time on task this year get some development at the end in a game like this. A guy like Mason Smith, who spent a lot of the season trying to get his body right and his food intake right and just learning the league. And, he finally, the last couple of weeks, he said the other day, it's been a challenge to figure everything out around football. And now it's starting to show on the field. He has a sack again and guys like that. Jordan Jefferson got some time in the game for the first time, rookie defensive tackle. May not be a superstar, but he had a pass defense late in the game, which was big. And those two guys, okay, if you're really confident in them for the future, those are a couple things you might not have to go out and get in free agency or the draft because if they're developing the right way. That's just two examples of that. So that's something to watch down the stretch here too. Earlier this week in the game in week 17 and then coming up against the Colts. That's a lot of what this is for too. You got to get guys out there and play and just see what you have if they haven't played yet this year.
Well, should we get into it? Let's get into it then. We'll look back on 2024 now. And I feel like, a good first subject to talk about is let's talk about the rookies, the rookie class that came in earlier on this year and how, yes, it has not been necessarily the best year for the Jacksonville Jaguars as a whole. But JP, you mentioned it there really, but how do you think that we should look back on Jags rookies in the 2024 season?
Oh, you start with Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, he's fourth in the NFL in receiving yardage this year of anybody. I mean, not just rookies. I mean, and he's leading all the rookies as well. So it's a fantastic start. And just think about how that developed as the year went along. He didn't get the ball a lot early in the season. It wasn't thrown his direction a whole lot. And that's really been the last month or so of the season where they have made a concerted effort to force the ball his way and getting double-digit touches each and every week. A lot of that's due to the injuries of the other guys, like Christian Kirk's out for the year, Gabe Davis is out for the year. In those circumstances, hey, guess what? He's going to get forced the ball a little bit more. Either way, I think he's proven that he can handle it. Yes, and it does work. And he's able to go into some double team situations and go up and make a play. So when your first-round pick works out, that's a good thing. That hasn't always been the case around here, right? So there's been a lot of times where the first-round draft pick, for one reason or another, either on or off the field, has been like a head-scratcher after year one, and you're wondering which way it's going to go. This is trending the right way. He's great off the field. He's all about the business and being a better football player week over week, and that's a fantastic start for him. So that's the number one thing. When that plays out, that's a good sign.
We spoke a bit about it last week, didn't we, Key?
Well, we've hardly talked about him this season, so yeah, let's stay on him.
No, I just feel like it's worth just saying that, not only do first-round picks not always hit, but first-round picks don't always translate to being, that guy for a franchise. And I feel like we're looking at that right now. Do you agree, JP?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, because of everything we just talked about, he's got the total package in the work ethic in the weight room, in the classroom, and then he goes out and executes and plays, and they can load his plate with a lot of different concepts. And that was a little concern early. Okay, hey, Press Taylor told me early in the season, preseason and training camp, hey, he's tall and fast and smart. We can start with that, okay, and then we can run a couple designs and. Then as it goes along, see what he can do. Well, I think that accelerated what they gave him because he was able to handle every concept that was thrown his way. So that's a great sign, especially for a rookie. A lot of times it's faster or, it's a longer season. So, do you have the stamina and the fitness, as you guys would say, to handle 17 games, well, he's proven that. Yeah, he's just fine. And that's a really good piece of what this future holds for the Jaguars.
Well, he said that, didn't he, Key, actually, when we spoke to him a few weeks ago, speaking just a real simple question, saying, how have you found this season? His first answer, JP, was long. That was just the first thing that he said. Long, a long season.
Well, you got to think about, too, like pre-draft process, combine, all these workouts, pro days, that's in like March. And then, the draft happens in late April. You show up for rookie mini camp right after that in May. Off-season program goes through mid-June. You get a little time down, not a lot as the other guys because you're a rookie, so they stay longer. They come to training camp a week earlier than everybody in late July, and then it's preseason, and then you're playing 18 games. I mean, that's 17 games, right? So it is a long time. And but it'll change after this season's over. He'll get some time away and he'll get into a regular NFL routine and he'll figure out what he really needs in an off season. But you just got to get to the finish line first. Then he'll be able to set up a real routine for the rest of his career.
Can I just say as well that, and I know it's really self-involved, but I do need to say thank you, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be saying thank you to Brian Thomas Jr. this weekend for winning them their fantasy league. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Got my first championship. JP, let's move on to somebody else then in the rookie class. Is there anybody else that you're thinking, you know what, we might have a gem here?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the draft order from last year. We talked about Mason Smith.
Yeah.
That's developing at least late in the season. I think there's some good positive signs that he might be able to carry that moving ahead. Jarian Jones has made an impact at cornerback this year that, they weren't really sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what a third-round pick. He's been out there a lot and has performed well, and he has an attitude about him, clearly, and a good way. I think that's something that this team lacked a lot this year was that kind of next-level competitive, we're here to defend our teammates and go win.
He's often in people's faces, JP, which I like to see.
You know what? They might be 4-12, but there's a few guys that have that are upset about that, and he's one of them. So we need more of that around here. I like that. Javon Foster hasn't touched the field yet, the tackle from Missouri, and you just don't know. That's a development prospect. Jordan Jefferson, same way, finally getting some reps. Prince has just recently come on the field, a cornerback from Ole Miss. And Keelan Robinson, okay, he's a late-round pick, fifth-rounder. He was hurt most of the year. Working on kick returns now. Maybe you have a development guy in him down the line. And then, of course, the kicker, Cam Little. I mean, he's been fantastic this year. So, I mean, like I said, if your first-round pick works out and you can get some of these earlier to mid-round guys to hit, then you have a really productive draft class here. Kicker feels like he's going to be around for a long time. I don't want to jinx him, but that feels good. And you get the wide receiver and a couple of pieces on the defensive side that can play.
Besides the rookie class, besides some of the players that we've already mentioned, I feel like when we're looking back in 2024, there's very obvious reasons why some Jacksonville Jaguars fans might not be feeling, too optimistic, with the record. Is there anything that you're thinking, do you know what? Yes, the record wasn't great, but here's some positive signs from the Jaguars. The long pause. Wow.
Well, I mean, there are some. We'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. What's the direction of the organization, right? I mean, that'll set the tone for everything. Who's running the show? Who's coaching the show? Is it the same? It could be, and that might be fine too. Yeah, who knows? And that will tell you a lot about the direction of what they're going to do in personnel and what their thoughts are on the offensive scheme and how they ran defense and, a lot of that kind of stuff. So we just got to see some more things happen or not happen and just have some definitive answers in the next week or so to set that tone moving ahead. And I think that's where we are right now in that part of it. The other, part of it too is the quarterback, right? I mean, he's going to be the number one storyline all the way through the rest of his contract. That's how it is. 6 more years on his deal now. How does he come back off the left shoulder surgery? Is he going to be able to take that next step and elevate and be able to do things above the X's and O's, if you will, that some of these other quarterbacks are doing right now in the NFL. I mean, you see these teams that are in the playoff hunt doing wild things. We can talk about Mahomes all day, but Lamar has a different skill set than everybody. Lamar Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daniels in Washington has that similar skill set. He's never going to be that, but can you do something to help your guys get over the top when it's all down to the wire like that? And and can you protect yourself? That's a big question with Trevor. He's been hurt the last couple of years, and can he? Is this more of an organizational push to keep him upright and healthy? Part of that is, is that a different kind of play call? Is that taking the run game out for him as much? Is that teaching him to throw it away and live another down more? I mean, there's all that, and who's running that again, right? So that's a big question mark moving ahead. You got the receiver. There are questions in the running game. Offensive line seems like it's going to be, for the most part, back. Just contractually, both running backs for the final year of their deal coming up, I think. So, okay, what's going to happen in that part of it? And then the defense was all new last year. I mean, this season. So, does that move forward? How do they figure that out? You've got pass rushers. They're around. A cornerback will be around, and Tyson Campbell. There's some young guys you're excited about. Linebacker play was lacking a little bit. So there are big questions all around, really, on both sides. But until we get a definitive answer on the direction starting in early January of what the leadership is or isn't going to be, then I think we got to wait for some answers.
But to pick up on one of Jay's points, JP, on the TV show, right, this year, we've talked a lot about trying to focus on the positives. So aside of some of the rookie class that we've already talked about, what are some of those positives for you that we can take from this year as fans of the franchise?
It's tough, man. I'll be honest with you. It's 4-12.
Yeah.
I mean,
give me something, JP. Come on.
One of the positives is that they didn't get blown out every week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were in games.
One-score games.
They're in the games.
JP.
They're in the games.
All you got to do is make 2 more plays a game, and they're winning half these games.
I suppose that's why it's more frustrating, though. Not more frustrating, but it's frustrating in a different way. One-score games are, yes, you're not getting blown out there were a couple blowouts, don't get me wrong, but that's why the one-score games have been so frustrating, aren't they? Because it just feels like, as you say, a couple plays here, a couple plays there, and we could be talking about something different.
And that would be a totally different conversation, because we'd be talking about a game probably for a playoff shot or something like that. So that's where they are. I mean, that's one of the things that really frustrates you about this season. Another positive part, I mean, we talked about Brian Thomas Jr. all day. That'll be one of the real great positives, I think, out of this season, really one of the only ones. Defensively, I think Trayvon Walker surprisingly took a little bit of a step. Maybe not statistically as much. He's getting close to double-digit sacks again, but just the way he can impact the game, I don't think he'll ever be Aiden Hutchinson statistically, just pure pass rushing numbers, but he's got the big enough frame and the mindset, and he does everything right off the field to be ready to roll.
I was going to say, he's another one whose work ethic is...
That's right. And that's another one that, if he continues to ascend like he is, can be a really productive player in the NFL for a long, long time. And is that number 1 overall worthy? You can argue that until the cows come home. I don't know. That's up to anybody else. But he's a really good player. And if you don't have him, then you're not in a lot of these one-score games to begin with.
Yeah, arguing, over is it number 1 worthy? It's almost like it's almost irrelevant and redundant after you've made the pick as well, isn't it? It's like it's happened now. We just need to work with it.
It's what they say on all these picks, right? It doesn't matter what round you're in. If you're on the 53, okay, you're here now. You're in the NFL. You better go perform and produce. I mean, nobody looks at they're looking at your jersey number and your name on the back. It doesn't say when you were drafted, right? So go play.
That's it. Let's talk about franchise changing. Maybe changing isn't the right word. Not altering, but maybe a big franchise moment for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's their commitment as well to Jacksonville. I swear there was like a 3-week period. Was it around that time where you had the Trevor Lawrence contract, you had the Josh Hines-Allen contract, and you had this news as well, and it felt like Jacksonville for a very short period of time there was like the hub of NFL news. And that is not just massive for 2024, JP, isn't it? That's massive for, well, a long, long time.
The next 30 years at least, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because
that's quite a while,
how long the lease is going to be in the new place. So they're not going anywhere. So that was a lot of concern over the last 10 to 15 years is, okay, this is a team that could be eligible to move. And a lot of fans have been concerned about that. And to be quite frank, the London thing kind of freaked a lot of people out around here, fan base, because of that. Okay, they're going to go to London, or they're going to go to LA. Look out! They're trying to go to LA. Maybe the Jags are going to go there. But Shad Khan, to his credit, has never wavered in that. He's always said he's wanted to keep the team here. He's done everything in his power to prove that time and again. He puts his money where his mouth is too. Investing in the stadium here before. He doesn't own it. It's the city-owned facility, and splitting the football facility with the city as well. That's not a chump change, right, that he's throwing around. And then development around the stadium. Now, of course, the stadium renovation to go on top of all that is the real kicker that proves it for certain. So that's a relief for a lot of people here in Northeast Florida that the team is here for the generations to come. That's always been the goal, and that will be the case. So it's a few years away. Obviously, 2028 will be when it opens. There'll be a couple years of some transitional things. 27, they'll have to play away from here and all that. But that is a huge cornerstone piece to the franchise in the next 30 years here in Northeast Florida. And talking about the other contracts, right? Trevor Lawrence and Josh Hines-Allen and Tyson Campbell and these guys that were drafted here in the last few years, Mr. Khan didn't have to say yes to any of those, right? He had the ability to be like, let's just hold back a little bit with everything else going on. He has wasted he does not hesitate to spend money on football matters if that's what the football leadership thinks can help them win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's rarely said no to anything like that. So credit needs to be given to Mr. Khan and his commitment to excellence, both off the field with the stadium and the development around it. But certainly he's done his part on the football side. Hasn't worked out with wins and losses, but from an ownership perspective, hey, you give them the resources and then figure out what happens after that.
You can't move the Jacksonville Jaguars to anywhere that doesn't begin with J because the name will not sound as cool. The Los Angeles Jaguars will not be a thing.
It was good to see, obviously, when that went down and the Jaguars stayed here, and it proved a lot of people wrong. So a lot of national pundits and things, media types were pegging the Jaguars to leave. So they are Jacksonville's team. They are London's team too.
Jaipur, I will accept. Los Angeles, I will not.
Love it.
Jaipur Jaguars. Yeah. Still doesn't sound as good. One thing that we should speak about, Kee, is one of our highlights of 2012. Well, first of all, one of my highlights of 24 is doing the first Duval at Wembley Stadium. Got to mention it every single possible time. Cool. Absolutely loved it. Some have said it was the best first Duval ever, and that person was my mum.
The reason why is because
JP, you look like you're going to agree.
Right. The reason why is because you pronounced it right.
It's only because, and I tell you what, I moaned about you actually on the podcast that week, JP, because I was saying how you were criticizing my pronunciation of Duval.
It was wrong.
JP saved you global embarrassment, is what he did.
Yeah,
you're welcome. I didn't get a Christmas card or anything from you, Jay. What in the world?
100,000 people would have just looked at me and been like, what is he saying? Like, what is going on? I would have embarrassed myself in front of the whole of Wembley Stadium. No, I appreciate that, JP. Thank you. I mean, that was, you know what, actually, on a very, quick, serious note, that Wembley game, we probably weren't anticipating it, but was one of the highlights of the Jacksonville Jaguars season on the field. Quite genuinely. You had some standout moments there.
Tank was unbelievable in that game, man.
Yeah, and you had the Parker Washington
fantastic,
return there as well for the touchdown. So for those moments, we weren't anticipating it at that time. Obviously
that 58-yard bomb to BTJ as well from Trevor. That was unbelievable. What a catch!
Exactly.
Yes,
And then,
it was.
so all of those moments we weren't anticipating at the time were going to be highlights. Well, actually, you look back on it, and actually, you had some big moments in. If you're looking for big moments in a win for this season for the Jags, well, you're actually probably looking at that game, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because they didn't score. I mean, 2 weeks before that against the Colts was their first win of the season,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
and Tank had a big game in that one as well. And then they
That
go up
felt
to
nice in the
Spurs.
throwback jerseys as well.
Ah, it was great, right? And then they go up to Spurs, and the Bears blasted them. That was
Yeah.
embarrassing. And then you're right, because the Patriots game. Okay, how do they respond from that? There was not a. It didn't really know how they were going to come back and play, and is it just a long trip or what are they going to do? And they went out and performed against the Patriots. It was their last win for forever. So, and then the last two wins have been 10-6 and 20-13. So there hasn't been a lot of offense even in those wins. So that Patriots game had it all. And yeah, that punt return's pretty much one of the all timers, because you never see a punt return of 85, 90 yards or more, because you always fair catch it inside the 10 usually. But the circumstances were the way it was punted, the way they covered in the past. Parker Washington said, hey, I'll give this a shot. I'm going to take a few steps back. It's a line drive kind of at me. I've got some room. Let's go for it. And the rest is history, 96 yards.
Absolutely. You know what? We've looked back at 2024. Let's do something fun, shall we? Let's look forward to 2025. Let's do some New Year's resolutions for some Jags players, guys. Some things that, well, you know what a New Year's resolution is. I don't need to explain. Does Trevor Lawrence, should his resolution, it should be just shoulder-based, shouldn't it, really? To get that shoulder all back and not worrying about that anymore, Key?
I mean, 100%. Like, I feel like Trevor's New Year's resolution should be have a better left shoulder.
Okay, great.
My resolution for him is to slide earlier.
Slide earlier. Fair enough.
Both ways. I mean, he hurt his shoulder diving forward head first, which is questionable to begin with. And then, okay, he slid pretty early, depending on who you asked, right? I mean, the defensive side for the Texans don't believe it, but who cares what they think? I mean, he slid 5 yards early, but if it takes sliding 7 yards early, just get down. Like,
it's a fine line between giving everything you've got and staying safe, isn't it?
And
there is.
But the problem is whatever you do, you'll be criticized for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're healthy and can play the next snap, then who cares?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I think that's fair. Trayvon Walker, his New Year's resolution. Are we anticipating this is because this is when they work out where it's going to be a 5th-year option? I'm right.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Season. That's right. It was after year 3. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't see any reason why they wouldn't.
Exactly. So the New Year's resolution, just get that done and dusted, and that'll be an earlier one, I anticipate, rather than later. JP, have you got New Year's resolutions for any players or anybody within the Jags organization?
I've got one.
Go on, Key.
I think the defense should invest in trampolines so that more of the big defensive guys can be doing backflips on the field.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Is that what you think?
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
What?
2 weeks ago, who was it, JP? Who was it?
Ledbetter.
Ledbetter. That was it. Ledbetter, one of the bigger guys on defense, did an amazing backflip.
But do you feel like that should be something that they should just be practicing in the off season?
I think all of them should be on trampolines for the entire off season because I want to see more backflips on the gridiron.
Or do you want to see? If you're talking about defendants, was it the Vikings the other day that did the? Was it the Vikings that did the High School Musical dance? Was it the defense afterwards? Maybe they should be looking at, getting some sort of choreographed moves in the offseason.
Hey, you know what, though? You know what that takes to be able to do that is more than 9 takeaways a season.
Yeah, you got to earn those celebrations.
That's right.
Well, no,
if you do it 30
takes
times
one.
a year, you have practice. 9 times a year, no, there's no time to practice.
Anton,
I would say this. I got one, Jay.
Let's go.
Short yardage offense. You need to have a resolution to have a different mindset and go get 2 yards when you need to get 2 yards.
Yes.
How do you do that? You get in the weight room, you design a different way. That is one thing that is really lacking. They don't sneak the ball unless Mac Jones is in there, right?
Well, they did to end last season, didn't they? That's how the season ended before with against the Titans, wasn't it? Trevor Lawrence against the Titans, couple sneaks that failed. So I suppose you're saying it carried on.
So
that was in
whether it's a
2024.
sneak or you're handing it off, I mean, they have not been able to figure that out in a year and a half. So they've got to find an answer, and that's a really football-y resolution. It's not as fun as Keys, but
they could be,
trying to jump over, can't they? Try and jump over a defensive line.
Trampolines.
So
trampolines work on both sides of the ball. I've said it my entire life, and I'll keep saying it.
Remember, what jumps up has to come down at some point too. So that's the scary part.
Name of the podcast. A few weeks ago, Anton Harrison, JP, told us that he was going to make mac and cheese at Thanksgiving because his mum's mac and cheese just ain't it anymore. Just doesn't do a good job. So Anton Harrison should learn to give his mother some more respect. No,
I think he should be kinder to his mum. That should be his resolution.
Gosh, that's aggressive. It really is.
Wow. Well, we haven't had an update on how the mac and cheese went, so Anton needs to tell us, to be fair.
I like the aggression from Anton, but not towards your elderly mother. Come on.
Wow. Here's another one. Like a football he went around Anton. What is his future at the right tackle position? Does this team look at flipping those guys around next year? Walker Little's on a contract extension already. Anton played left tackle his whole college career. Is that something that, that's something that you would have to do in the off season to work on and have time to, you can't just do that mid season,
No.
That's something I think that you could probably, maybe he works on it on his own some, just to have that skill set in his back pocket when he shows up for off-season program, just in case. You don't know.
And can we have an overall, maybe we can all come up with one that we all feel comfortable with, an overall New Year's resolution for the Jags organization or the team for 2025?
I've already got mine, Jay.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, you go first and then I'll say mine.
Mr. Khan said it at the beginning of this season. Everything's in place. Now just go win. It's got to be that.
JP?
Get rid of that losing mentality. Don't be a loser.
Yeah.
Go be a winning organization from top to bottom. And that's, unfortunately, we've had a lot more losing around here than winning over the last, since I've been around here. That has gone over different regimes and different leadership changes. And at some point, that's got to stop.
And it's not necessarily something that can change immediately, is it? And that was going to be my New Year's resolution. And in fact, it's unfair to be a 1 year's New Year's resolution, really, because, as you say, there's been more losing than winning. But several seasons of winning changes everything, doesn't it? It changes everything. You are no longer a team that that loses. You are a team that expects to win because the players have won. Does that make sense? So that's what the New Year's resolution needs to be. However, that's not something that can be done in 1 year.
I'm going to give you an extreme case that I just saw firsthand last week on Christmas Day. I did the Chiefs at Steelers game on radio here in the United States. Yes, the Chiefs have won multiple Super Bowls recently, and they have an all-time quarterback already, and they've got the tight end, and they've got a Hall of Fame head coach, and those are some of the pieces that you probably need in place to do this type of thing. But they have it down so cold that it's not, pregame, you walk out and see the Jaguars warming up before a game, and there's all these assistant coaches like coaching guys up and getting them going and doing this. There's none of that with the Chiefs. Players are just running their thing. They know exactly what to do, when to do it, to be ready, and they execute at a high level, and there's no concern. It's just, this is what we do. We go play and execute and win because we have the bodies to do it, and we're better than you, and we're going to go win. And that is a mentality.
Gosh,
when you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you can get away with some of that stuff, right? But they have it, and that's what everybody's aspiring to get to in the NFL. And then I came back from the game the next day and walked out to Jaguars practice. I was like, oh, okay, it's a little bit further away than I might have first imagined, right? It's just a different vibe. The vibe is different, right? Because that's a playoff environment, pregame. Not to say it can't be done. It can be done anywhere in the NFL. So for people to say that Jacksonville can't win because it's Jacksonville, it's a small market, that's ridiculous. It can happen anywhere in the National Football League. Same salary cap, same structure, resources spent like crazy here. It can be done. It's a mentality that it will be done. And they have that in Kansas City. They have that in Pittsburgh. They have that in all these places, Baltimore, that have had success long-term for a long time, decades of success in a row. They have consistency. They have dedication to their cause. And that's where this needs to be. And any team can get there. The Jaguars need to get there fast.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff, JP. Look, me and Kee have got our calendars out. We are looking ahead to 2025. Let's go through some key dates, shall we, JP? What should we be looking out for in 2025?
Well, let's see. The free agency period begins in mid-March. The start of the league year starts March 12th. So put that one on your calendar, Jay. That's when you can start signing free agents and trading players officially. So March 12th at 4:00 Eastern time is when that begins. And then the off-season program begins in April, mid-April. If there's no coaching change, it's in mid-April. If there is a coaching change, you can start April 7th. If not, it is like mid-April. So actually 21st if there's no changes. So weights, strength and conditioning, all that stuff. NFL draft is April 24th through 26th. The combine's at the end of February. I left that out. So that's a key piece of the program leading into the NFL draft. And then the offseason program just continues through June, and that's where we are. And then late July, training camp will crank back up again. We're looking at, I'm sure, obviously, we'll be back in London again. So not sure exactly when. They haven't announced those games, the dates yet on those. So, hey.
Around October time is usually, isn't it, JP?
Yeah, it's about
it'll be
right.
around October.
Yeah, but that's the off-season kind of key dates for you.
You missed out something very important there, JP.
Oh, boy. What's that?
End of July, me and you drinks in Pete's Bar in Jacksonville.
Oh, you're coming back?
Hopefully, yeah. Fingers crossed.
Good. Well, apparently it's on your calendar already because...
Jay, don't make it awkward, Jay. Don't make it awkward.
You've made it awkward, Kee.
You're not going to make it, Jay?
Well, it's just it depends if you're inviting me, JP. I think that's the big thing, isn't it? If I feel welcome,
no
then maybe.
authority here whatsoever.
Oh, well, here we go, JP. Here we go.
0.
Okay, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts game. We'll do this quickly. It's a bit of a weird game, actually, this weekend, because it did look like it could be Jags had a chance to eliminate the Colts from, be the playoff conversation in the last week of the regular season. However, Colts lose against the Giants, which means that they are no longer going to be, possibly going to be in the playoffs. So you've almost got a Jacksonville Jaguars team who have known they're not going to be in the postseason for weeks, and almost like probably a wounded animal, Indianapolis Colts, if that makes sense, because they're either going to be angry or they'll be whimpering, I imagine.
Deflated is a good word for that, probably. So you got to take advantage of that while that happens, and a chance to go sweep them too, and it'll be probably an empty stadium in Indianapolis. That's just how it's going to be the final week of the season when the game doesn't matter in the standings, and go take advantage. Now it is, what's the question, right? Which quarterback's going to play? Jonathan Taylor has been ripping off some runs the last few weeks. You got to be careful with that because he'll want to finish his season as strong as possible, and you don't want him to get loose on you. So that's the big priority this week. And again, for the Jaguars, keep playing, keep fighting as much as you can, and go squeak out a win if you need to. And that's what they've been able to do last week. And maybe Mac Jones can put together another decent performance and keep kind of trending a little bit higher. I don't think he's going to trend himself into a starting job in the league next year, but just don't turn it over, Kee, like you told him the other week, right? Just don't throw interceptions and let your other guys play, and then you got a shot. That's what this game's about. That's why also this game is at 1:00 on Sunday to get it out of the way. If the Colts were involved, they would have had to play it later at the same time as these other AFC games, and then so it'll be early, it'll be done. It'll probably be one of the fastest games of the season, in my estimation, because both teams will want to get the heck out of here.
6 p.m. UK time, and it'd be the Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of standings, JP, we do standings every single week, predictions only. Well, this is the last week, isn't it, Key?
Yeah,
this is the last possible week, and we do have some movement in the standings. Now, remember, whoever wins gets to take something from the losers, I suppose, man cave, I suppose. Now, I want that little Trevor Lawrence figurine. Do you have that with you, Key, at the moment?
Yeah,
it's somewhere.
I've got it.
Maybe,
I've always got it, Jay. I've always got it with me.
Maybe one of the customized Jags artwork behind.
No, those are drilled into the wall, Jay.
Oh, really? Well, I'll have the whole wall then. Points available.
Just move in,
yeah.
mate.
Do you know what? Just take where you live. With points available for correct scores as well. Key, in theory, can still catch me. Key is currently on 4. The guest/fan is on 5. I am on 7. Now, me and you get a point this week. Reese bet against the Jags last week.
Absolute loser.
Atrocious behaviour.
I don't really consider him a true part of the team. Thank goodness we've got JP here this week. That's all.
Well, it's not necessarily. I mean, trending the way the team was playing. I mean, I don't blame him.
JP, we need your prediction for Jags Colts, please. Score.
Jaguars 17, Colts 16.
Okay. All right. Close game. Key, you need to predict the correct score. If you get the correct score, Key, then you win.
No problem. No, the score will be 31-7 to the Jags.
31.
31. JP, I have made outrageous predictions
and
all season. Not one of them has worked.
That's why you're in last place.
This one will work, and it will turn the whole thing around, and I will be the Super Bowl winner of Teal Talk. That's what's going to happen.
It'd be an all-time rally.
Yeah. 31-7 to the Jags. Telling you.
Do you know what? Let's give you a fighting chance, and I'll predict something even more outrageous then, shall I? 40-0 shutout of the Indianapolis Colts, just to give you a fighting chance. If you win the whole thing, Key, let's just say that I'll be extremely surprised, but you never know. You never know.
What crazier things have happened?
I don't know if they have. Honestly,
yeah, fair.
I don't know if they have. What is on the Sky Show with Reese Parkinson this week, please, Key?
It's a really nice one this week. We've got lots of JP on, which is always good. So JP and Reese will break down the Titans game. Then JP are going to look forward to the Colts game. But the highlight for me is mic'd up. I love getting down on the field. I think it's about as close as you can get to feeling like an NFL player. So, we've got mic'd up on the show this week, which I'm looking forward to.
How can people watch?
This week, we are on Thursday because of the holiday schedule. So we're on Thursday, 9 p.m, Sky Sports NFL, then repeats throughout the week, and lots of lovely stuff going up on the Jaguars UK YouTube channel.
All right, we'll be back next week. What are you doing for New Year's, JP Key?
Let's see. I'll be here in Jacksonville. We're regular workday New Year's Day. So no shows New Year's Day, but there'll be media access to the team and such. And then Thursday is the Gator Bowl game. Duke and Ole Miss are playing at EverBank Stadium Thursday night. I'll call that game on national radio in the U.S. And then Friday, I'm headed up to Baltimore. I'm doing the Browns-Ravens game on Saturday in Week 18. And if the Ravens win, they are the AFC North champions. That's on Westwood 1. So a busy week ahead.
Busy week. Key, is yours comparable?
No, there will be no sport involved with my New Year's Eve. I am going to watch a screening of When Harry Met Sally. Then I'm going to dinner, and on New Year's Day, I will swim and go to a museum. I am a man of culture.
I'll tell you what, that's a hell of a soundtrack in that film with Harry Connick Jr. when he was a young guy did it. That was fantastic.
It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite films, and it's showing on New Year's Eve. It's like, we have to go. Yeah.
Well, you know how you've seen it before. So.
Yeah, we've got JP.
So no surprises. You know,
no surprises, but they're showing it on film as well, which I can't wait for. Yeah.
This is the geekiest conversation I think I've been a part of for quite a while.
So, do you want to switch it to food, Jay? Would that be better for you?
Yeah, to be fair, I'm good at talking about food. All right, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining Teal Talk, JP. Thank you so much.
Hey, good to talk to you guys. This is audio only podcast. Great to talk with you guys as always, and Happy New Year.
Appreciate it. You too. All right, this has been Teal Talk in partnership with Gallagher. It's been a Shooting Shark production for Jacksonville Jaguars, UK and Ireland. Go subscribe wherever you're listening. Go subscribe. Remember, we are on YouTube as well. Have a good New Year's Eve.